This is Kuldeep here. Dharani actually is the community lead from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and an expert in DevOps. So I guess he's giving a very insightful. He's chosen an insightful topic: CI/CD and DevOps. I think we all will learn a lot of this. So be there. The chat box is open. We will try to answer all the queries at the end so that the session doesn't get disrupted. We have kept last 5 minutes for that. The session is getting recorded, and so hence you all will get the recordings. At the end of the event, we will consolidate and put it out on the LinkedIn or some medium. So you will get it out. Don't worry about that. Over to you, Dharani.
Uh, Thanks, Kuldeep. So I'm just sharing my screen. So once you are able to see my screen, let me know.
Yes, Danny, we are able to see.
Okay. Hello all, good morning everyone. So welcome to the Power Platform, the Community Learning Day. So it's going to be an 12 hours non-stop event. So 7 from MVP family and 3 other SMEs across the world talking all things about the Power Platform today. So all the sessions will be fully packed with the exciting technical contents and the business use case. Hopefully, I feel all these sessions will be very useful for you guys. So today I'm going to talk about the DevOps for the Dynamics 365 CE, CI/CD. But before I talk about the CI/CD, so let me quickly give a small introduction about myself. Dharanidharan Balasubramaniam. I have 7 years of experience into Dynamics CRM. I'm a Dynamics 365 CE and Power Platform consultant. Currently, I'm leading the KL business applications and Power Platform community and leading the APAC business applications and Power Platform community too. I'm part of D365 Champs community and ambassador of D365 Saturday. On the screen, you can see my contact details. So I have mentioned my LinkedIn and my blog. So if you have any doubts, please feel free to reach out to me personally regarding this session. I will be very glad to assist you on this. And also in the session, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the chat window. I'm very glad to assist you on that. So here's our agenda. So we'll see what is DevOps and why DevOps is important and why DevOps is important for Dynamics 365 CE. And we'll see quickly the some system demo and we'll see the summary of today's session. And finally, we'll enter into the question and answers. So DevOps. So the DevOps is nothing but a set of practices that combines the software development and the information technology operations. So which aims to shorten the development life cycle and provide the continuous delivery with good quality of software to our customers or to the end users. Uh, in the layman term, DevOps as the union of people, the process and products to enable the continuous delivery of the value to the end users. If you ask me, the people are really one of the most important pieces of DevOps. The first thing, if you want to implement the DevOps, the first thing we need to consider is like, do we have the right people in the place to accomplish as a software development process what we are going to achieve? So yeah, if you don't have the right the people in place, then how are we going to onboard them, and are we going to cross train or up train? And again, it's a different from each and every company. So each and every company will have their own software development process, and good, bad or indifferent, they have their own process, and we follow the process regularly to deliver the software to our customers or to the end users. So it's just how well is that process is working for you. If it is not working well for us, then we need to tweak the process and we need to make that work. We need to make that process work for us. That's the main thing. It's about this DevOps. And also in the earlier days, we won't spend much time on DevOps. But post 2015, if you see, all the companies on all the projects are we are having the separate budget for maintaining this DevOps, and we do have a separate role called a DevOps engineer. So so now most of the companies are they started using this DevOps. As of by 2020, around 90% of companies are started using the DevOps. 7% people are not using it, and 3% of people the companies are undecided to use this DevOps. And here is why the DevOps is so important. So the DevOps describes a culture and set of process that bring development and operations team together to complete the software development. It allows organizations to create and improve the products at a faster pace than they can with the traditional software the development approach. And also it's gaining the popularity at a rapid rate. According to DevOps.com, the adaptation, the rate has increased significantly from the 2015 to 2020. In the 2015, 60% of organizations were adopting DevOps, 90% were not adopting DevOps, and 50% were undecided. In 2016, 74% of organizations were adopting DevOps, 60% were not adopting DevOps, and 10% were undecided. Whereas in 2020, as I said, 90% of organizations start adopting DevOps, 7% were not adopting, and 3% of companies were undecided. And here are the top 5 reasons why the industries has been so quick to adopt the DevOps principles. The first is the shorter development cycle and the faster innovation. When the development team and the operations teams are in the separate silos, so it is usually difficult to tell if an application is ready for operations. When the development team simply turns over an application, the operations cycle times are extended needlessly. But whereas with the combined development and the operations teams effort, the applications are ready for use much more quickly. This is the important since companies succeed based on their ability to innovate faster than their competitors. So typically the product based companies, so they need to innovate faster than their competitors. And reduced deployment failures, rollbacks, and time to recover. So the shorter development cycles with the DevOps promote more frequent code releases. This in turn makes it easier to spot code defects. Therefore, teams can reduce the number of deployment failures using our programming. And rollbacks are similarly easier to manage because when necessary, only some modules are affected. And time to recover is an important issue, and because some failure has to be expected, but recovery is much faster when the development and the operation teams have been working together, and they will exchange the ideas, and the accountability also for the both the teams will be good, and they will be easily able to resolve the challenges during the development and the deployment. And here comes the improved communication and collaboration. The DevOps plays a major role in the software development culture, and combined teams are happier and more productive. So the teams can focus on getting the product since the people are more productive. The teams can focus on getting the product to market as soon as possible or into the production. And next is the increased efficiencies. The increased efficiencies helps to speed the development process, and in turn it makes it less prone to error. And finally, the reduced cost and the IT headcount. All of the above the DevOps benefits transfer to the reduced overall cost and the IT headcount requirements. And when I was assigned as a platform engineer for a Dynamics 365 CE implementation project, at the time, I had a key challenges with the CRM deployments. I have listed all those things over here. So each time the solutions files were manually exported and imported to the target environment. And no unit testing or validation for the deployed solutions. And multiple deployment processes followed between the release environments, and the master data or the configuration data were manually exported and imported into the release environments. And multiple developers working in the same organization will override the changes in the release environments. So in order to resolve these challenges, I have started working on the DevOps automation process. So for this, we have defined the process. So this is not the only the process. So each and every company will have their own process. But for our problem statement, we have come up with this process. And typically in a larger organizations, the multiple developers will be sharing the single CRM source instance. For example, if the developer is assigned with the user story, as a first step, what they do is like they will validate the user story and they will come up with the design and they will present it to the solution review board. And based on the solution review board approval, the developers will start working on the user stories. The developers will do the customization and the configuration changes in the source environment. Once the user story is completed, then the developers will export the solution from the source instance using the PowerShell scripts into the Visual Studio. Then using the solution packager, they will unpack the solution and they will check in only their necessary components which is associated with that user story. They won't check in the complete solution. They will check in only the necessary components which they have modified in the source environment. As soon as check-in is done, so it will trigger the VSTS build definition. In the VSTS build definition, we have enabled the gated check-in process. This why we are enabling the gated check-in process. The main reason is to maintain the code quality and the coding standards. So each and every company, they maintain their own coding standards. So in order to maintain the coding standards, and we need to maintain the consistency, the code quality, the consistency across all the developers. So in order to achieve that, we have enabled the gated check-in. On top of it, also with this gated check-in, we will make sure that it won't break the deployment process. For example, what all the code the developer is writing, we are making sure that it is building properly without having any build issues. And note, this is the manual step. This is the only manual step to be performed by the developer, and they need to extract the files. They need to export the solution using the PowerShell script, and they need to unpack it, and they need to check in the necessary components into the VSTS. This is the only manual step involved in this deployment process. Rest other things, the VSTS, as this deployment process, the automated deployment process will take care of it automatically. So once the code gets committed, the VSTS build automation will trigger automatically, and it will pack the CRM solution with the XML files, and it will push it to the artifacts repository. Once it is moved there, the build definition will get succeeded. As soon as the build definition will get succeeded, the release definition will trigger automatically, and it will send it for the approval. We have configured the predefined. We can configure the pre-deployment approvers. So if we configure the pre-deployment approvers, then the approval email will be sent it to them, and they need to approval. On based on their approval, the release definition will trigger automatically, and it will pick the solution which we have formed in the build definition that is there in the artifacts repository. It will pick that solution and it will deploy it into the destination instance. Yeah. So once it is deployed into the destination instance, so the QA will do the system testing. Once the system testing is done, then they will promote the same solutions to the UAT environment and also to the production environment. So here is the process. I just put it in detail and how we are maintaining it. In the first step, what all the things I have highlighted in the green color, it's a manual task, and whatever there in the purple color, it's an automation task. As I said in the previous slide, and in the first step, only those 3 chunks will be the manual process. Rest other things, the automation process will take care of it automatically. So the developers will customize the CRM solution, and they will merge the changes into the master CRM solution and extract into XML files. Once this is done, then in the Visual Studio, they need to exclude the other dev changes, and they need to check in only their components. Once the check-in is done, the ADO build pipeline will trigger, and it will pick the checked in XML files, and using the MS CRM pack solution component, we are packing that into a CRM solution, and that will be moved to the artifacts repository. Once it is moved to the artifacts repository, the release definition, it will trigger, it will pick that zip file. Before picking the zip file, it will ask for the approver. Once the approver is approved, then it will pick that zip file and it will deploy into the SIT. In SIT, we are maintaining it as an unmanaged solution, whereas in UAT and prod, we are maintaining it as a managed solutions. Once the system testing is done, then from the SIT, we are picking the managed solution and we are moving it to the UAT. Similarly, we are following the same approval process for the consecutive stages. Similarly, for the solutions, we do have the master data and the configuration data. So we need to move this configuration data. For example, the environmental variables, all those things are typically in our CRM projects. Generally, what we do is like once the development is done, then we export the data using the configuration migration tool and we import it, or we export the data and import it using the import wizard. But this is also as part of this deployment process, we have automated it. So this configuration migration tool enables you to move the configuration data across the environments and the organizations. And sorry. So this configuration migration tool enables you to select the entities and the fields from where you want to export the configuration data. And using the configuration migration tool, you will be able to avoid the duplicates of data. And so similarly, what all the build components we are having it in the Azure DevOps, the same, it works in the same way. But the thing is like it's manual. If you are using the configuration migration data, it's a manual. But whereas using our Azure DevOps, it's a completely an automated. So generally what we need to do is like we just need to export the XML file using the configuration migration data, and we need to place that XML file under the solution repository, and we do have a separate pipeline for this. And whenever this XML the file is changed, automatically the build definition will trigger and it will connect to the source instance, and based on the XML file it will download the data.zip file and it will push it to the artifacts repository. Once the build gets succeeded, the release definition will trigger automatically and it will pick the data.zip file and it will import it into the target instance. So this is how basically we are doing it for the master data or the configuration data deployment. So
Aruni, just a feedback. If you can just point out to the presentation wherever you are telling the steps, that was just a feedback from one of the attendees. Thank you.
Sure, I will do it. Okay, and here is the mandatory rules. So before starting with this, before we start solving the problem, let us take a moment to define some of the mandatory steps which we need to follow. As a mandatory step, the first thing is like all the source code must be in the source control. For example, the plugin, the code, the custom workflow, actions, and web resources. Sorry, it's a typing mistake. It's a web resources. HTML, JS, the solution file, master data, and the security roles. Everything should be there in the TFS. And check in regularly. And every change should trigger the commit process. So this is how we have defined our automation process. And the commit process should be short and it validates the committed component. As I said in the previous slides, it's nothing but a gated check-in. What all the components that the developer is checking in, we are making sure that it's having the code quality and we are maintaining the coding standards, and also it won't break the deployment process. And also this is mainly useful to keep track changes, and also whenever if we need the rollback, then we can do it. And here is the Dynamics 365 instance management. So as our process, we have the 4 instances: the dev environment, SIT, UAT, and the prod environment. Dev, it's a dev is nothing but source environment. It's a true source for all the customization and the configuration changes. SIT, where all that the functionality will be tested against the user stories by the internal test users, whereas the UAT, all the functionalities will be tested against the user stories by the business users, and the production is nothing but the go live instance. And here is the prerequisites for the automation deployment. So we can use either the Visual Studio 2017 or 15, and we need the Visual Studio, the team services, the VSTS or the Azure DevOps, And yeah, Dynamics 365C, it's must, and we need to know have some PowerShell scripting knowledge, and we are using the solution packager. And last is the power ups, the power apps DevOps tools. Earlier it was named as a Dynamics 365 build tools. It has been developed by Valhamis. So in our complete DevOps process, we are using the tools. We have two methods. One is using this Valhamis tools, and the other one is using the complete PowerShell script. But in our today's session, I will be showing it through the Valhamis tools. So the right hand side, you can see this extension. Right hand side, you can in the image you can see the extension. So this is the extension. It comes in the Azure DevOps, but you need to install this extension in the Azure DevOps. If you want to use any of this tools, then we need to install this, and I have given the link here. So using this link, you can download this tool in your Azure DevOps. And here is the Visual Studio solution, and which we are maintaining. So this is how we are maintaining our the Visual Studio solution. So this is the for our demo purpose, I have just created the build automation. So the build automation under the build automation, we do have the 5 projects. So the build automation.command, build automation.plugin, solution manager, and solutions and workflows. This solution manager will hold all the PowerShell scripts and the command files, and this solution will have the complete the solution, the base solution. The plugin will hold the Dynamics 365 the plugin code, and similarly the workflows also will code the custom workflows. And this build automation.common, it will hold all the wrapper class, and it will hold all the common class which is related for our custom assemblies. So by maintaining this, the developer will get benefit by using this process, by making the solution deployment repeatable and predictable, and also the developers can associate their work items with their check-ins, and very useful for tracking the changes and comparing the solution files. For example, typically if you are doing the manual deployment, if you are changing any form, the developer is changing any form, then using the manual deployment will not be able to track it, what change A has done, change developer B has done. But whereas using our deployment process, since we are checking in all the solution files, we are unpacking, and since we are committing all the solution files inside our the VSTS, easily we will be able to keep a track of it. This form has been modified by whom at what time. All those informations will be easily able to keep a track of it. And mainly we are using the solution packager. In the solution packager, we are using the extract and the pack command. So yeah, so this is how using the unpack command. So we are just extracting our solution like this. Once the developer they export the solution, and using the unpack command, they will unpack it. It will come and sit in the Visual Studio like this. So the entities will be listed over here, and we can see the interaction centric dashboards. And others, we can see the relationships, the customization.xml, and the web resources. Even similarly for the plugins, we'll be able to see the plugin assemblies and SDK, the message, all those things we'll be able to see it over here. And the mapping.xml. So while packing the solution, we are mainly using the file to file mapping. So the mapping.xml, mainly it plays the role while packing the custom assemblies like the plugins, the workflows, and the custom actions. So what all the things we are writing. So using the mapping.xml, we are mapping all those things. So generally the mapping.xml, we will be able to do it 3 ways: the folder mapping, file to file mapping, and file to path mapping. For our demo purpose, I will be showing the file to file mapping. Yeah. And this solution manager is a command inline tool that can be invoked with the parameters. Yeah, so typically what we do is like we have created the command file. In the command file, we have put our script to the extract and unpack the solution, and we pass the parameters, the solution name and the CRM credentials, the username, password, and the CRM organization details. All those things will be passing it as a parameters, and will be invoking the command file from the external tools. In the demo, I will show that one. And this about the PowerShell script. The PowerShell scripts are used with the data centers, clouds, virtual machines, servers, and the applications to perform a variety of administration tasks. And the Dynamics 365 is not an exception. The following script can be used to export a solution from the source environment. It works with the managed, unmanaged solution, and even you can export the patch solution. And the execution of the script can be triggered manually, or even we can put this in our build pipelines. This the script which I'm showing in the screen, it basically uses the Microsoft.xrm.data. The PowerShell script. This has been implemented by Shian McNeils and Canario Nakamura. This script will attempt to install the module. So in case if this the Microsoft.xrm.data.PowerShell, if it is not there, and it will try to, whenever the new developer comes and if they try to run the script, it will try to install the module if it is not available, and if it is available, it will directly go and establish the CRM connection, and it will publish the customization, and it will export the solution into the location path wherever you have provided. And next is the Azure DevOps. Once the Visual Studio work is done, then the complete work will be only the edit code will happen only in the Visual Studio. Once this is done, once the developer commits the code, then it will get into the code repo. Once this is done, the complete process relies in the Azure DevOps. This Azure DevOps is nothing but a cloud service that you can use to automatically build and test your code project and make it available to the other users. It works with just about my language or prototype. And for our project, we have used our Azure DevOps. Even you can use the Jira. So lot of even you can use the Git repository to configure this. But whereas for us, in order to simplify, since everything lies in the Microsoft platform, so we have choose the Azure DevOps as our platform for configuring the build and release definition. So using the classic interface, you will be able to easily create the VSTS build and release definition. Yeah. So there are certain steps we need to follow for creating the build and release definition. So that I will be explained in detail while giving the system demo. I will explain you how to create the VSTS build and release definitions. So this is the VSTS build definition which I have created for our process. Once the code gets committed, just we are doing the build solution in order to maintain whether it's building succeeded or not. Once that is done, then we have the Power DevOps tool installer. This is the mandatory step which we need to use if you are using the Valhemis products, the Power Apps or DevOps tools. Then this is the mandatory step to install it. So as an initial step, we need to install this. Then only this step 3 and 4 will work. Once this is done, then we are setting the version to the source instance, and whatever the components the developer has committed with that XML files, we are packing that into an CRM solution, and we are pushing that file into the Azure artifacts repository. So once this build definition gets succeeded, we have a release definition in our VSTS, which is triggered to execute. And here is our release definition. So as I said, so this Power DevOps tool installer is the mandatory step which we need to add. So as a first step, we are adding it. Then we are importing the solution. This import solution will pick the components from the solution component from the Azure artifacts repository, and it will import it into the destination instance. Once the import is done, we are publishing the customization changes in the destination environment. And in order to do this, from the Azure DevOps, we need to hold the connection string, the CRM connection string. Basically, we are using the Office 365 as an auth type, and we are establishing the connection to the CRM from the Azure DevOps. But it's not a good to store the credentials as a task variable in the Azure DevOps. As a good practice, we are storing it in the Azure Key Vault. So the secure key management is essential to protect the data in the cloud. So we are using the Azure Key Vault to encrypt the keys and small secrets like passwords, so that use the HSM security model, and it will store it in the store those secrets in the Azure Key Vaults. Those Azure Key Vaults will be able to use it from the task variables. We can connect to the Azure Key Vaults and we can read those variables, and those variables you can use it as a connection string in your VSTS build and release pipelines. So next is the demo time. So here I will quickly go to demo. So this is the sample project which I have created in the Azure DevOps, the build automation. So in the dashboard, you can see the project stack. Guys, can you please?
Just a second for everybody. It's a humble request to everybody. Can you please keep yourself on mute? This is also going to impact our recordings, which we will share later. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the sample project which I have created in the Azure DevOps. So as soon as you landed into this page, you can see the project stats, how many changes has been committed by the authors, and in under the pipelines, you can see how much the build has been succeeded and how much the deployments has been succeeded. So I'm not going to much cover about this the Azure DevOps in detail. I just directly go to mostly I will speak mostly on this repos and the pipelines part. So the repos, if you go to the repos here, you can see the files, changes, change sets, and the self sets. Under the files, you can see the project structure. So this is the one in the presentation. I have added one screenshot. So here is where I have picked that screenshot. So here I had all the code details, the solution manager one, and the common files, plugins, solutions, workflows, and the packages will hold all the necessary the DLLs associated with all this the projects. And here you can see all your change sets which has been committed by you. And here you can see all your shelf sets. And under the pipelines, you can see the pipelines. This is for the build pipelines. And you can create your own environment here for managing the deployments. And this is the release definition. And this is the library for holding the values which I'm reading it from the Azure Key Vault. See over here you can see the variable group. If I click on this variable group, so yeah, you can see Azure subscription, and if you select the Azure subscription here, and it will automatically load the Key Vault name, and if you select the Key Vault name, hello. In between, someone is sharing their screen. So here you can see all the Azure Key Vaults name. So how we are maintaining is like if you go to portal.azure.com, over there we have created one Azure Key Vault, and we have captured all the source instance and the configuration, the source and the destination instance, username and password over here. So this will be a secrets over here. So from here, using the library, you can establish a connection to the Azure subscription and you can get all the values. And we do have the task groups and the deployment groups, but this two of the things we are not using it for our automated deployment process. So I'm not going to cover of this. So let's go to the Visual Studio. Yeah. So this is the project structure. So you can see here. So this will have all the common related files, and this will have all the plugin related code. And here the solution manager will hold the solution packager.exe, and it will hold all the command files and the PowerShell script which is required for the deployment automation process. And the build.automation will hold the solution, the complete solution. If you see here, my solution name in the base environment is build automation. So here you can see the folder called build automation, and under that you can see all the components, entities, interaction centric dashboards, others, web resources, all those things you will be able to see it here. And last is the build automation workflows. So this is how I have configured Visual Studio Solutions, and this is connected with my workspace in the Azure DevOps. So through this I have connected it. So whenever I check in the code, it will automatically, it will the code will all the changes will be moved to the Azure DevOps. Now let me quickly explain the PowerShell script which I have written. So this is the PowerShell script. I'm using it for exporting the solution from the source instance. So here I'm declaring all the variables, the solution name, the solution file path, username, password, and the CRM URL. So once this is done, then I have written one method for establishing the connection to the CRM. So here I'm calling the method. I have created a variable called CRM1. Over there, I'm calling the method establish CRM connection, and I'm passing the username and the password and the CRM URL. Once if I pass this, then it will call this method and it will establish the connection to the CRM, and in the CRM1 variable will have the connection string. As soon as the connection string is established, what I'm doing is like I'm increasing the timeout. So by default, it comes with a lesser timeout. I'm not sure with the seconds, but for our deployment process, based on the solution file, because if our solution file is bigger, then it will take a lot of time to export it from the source instance. So based on the solution file, we need to make sure that this timeout needs to be increased. And I'm increasing the timeout. Once that is done, then before exporting, I'm publishing. I'm doing the publish using the publish CRM all customization. Once this is done, then I'm exporting the solution. Here I'm mentioning the solution name, solution path, and the solution zip file name, and also here you can mention whether you need it as a managed solution or unmanaged solution. If you are not mentioning anything, by default it will take it as a unmanaged solution. If you pass -managed, then it will consider managed property equal to true, and it will export the managed solution from the source instance. So let me run this. So if I run this in the output window, you will be able to see this one. So it has established the connection. So it has creating the credentials, the object is created, then it's established the connection. Now the publish is going on. So once the publish is done, then the export command will trigger and it will export the solution from the source instance. Okay, one more thing what I will do is like I will go and do some modification. As of now, we don't have any modification. So this is the source environment. I'm considering for our demo purpose, I'm just considering this as our source environment, and this will be our destination environment. So if I go to the source environment and I will open the solution, and I will add one new field. I'll just keep it as an optional, and then I will keep this as a date field, date only field. So now I will go to the form. I will go to the main form. And I will add all these fields, the approval manager, approved by date. These are the fields I have created already, but this approved by date I have created now. But I will add all these three fields and I will click save and publish. Also, I will create one more web resource. we just added a set demo main.js. The same thing I will copy and paste it here. Select it as a JavaScript. And I will write some test method here for our demo. I will quickly save this one and I will publish this. But no need to publish actually, because our PowerShell script is having the publish command, and unknowingly I have done it. So now I'm going back to the Visual Studio Code and I will clear this one. Okay, I will run once again. So still export is going on.
Dharani,
Yeah.
We have 15 more minutes and we have to take up the Q&A session also. So just keep a time check. We have 15 more minutes.
Yeah, sure. So I will kill this one and I will trigger it once again. Yeah, so in the meanwhile, let it explode, let it export. In the meanwhile, I will explain you the unpack command, so which I have written here. So once the solution gets exported, so it will, we have given this particular folder, so it will come and sit over here. So once this exported, then over here, so we have configured using this external tools, and this is the command file which we have written. So here we need to mention, we are mentioning the solution name and the folder name. So it will pick the solution from there and it will extract and it will give you in this particular format. And it will show all the unchanged files in the red color, so that the developer will be easily able to identify what all the components and he or she has modified it. So once this is extracted, then it's this developer's responsibility to make sure like they need to keep a track of what all the changes they are doing as part of this user story. For example, now I have created one field and I have added the web resource and I have modified the form. So this three components, they need to check in manually from here. So it's a developer responsibility to keep track of all these changes. So once they check in this, so it will automatically trigger this build definition. And in the build definition, so here we have options to enable the gated check-in, but for our demo purpose, I haven't enabled it. But here you can enable the gated check-in, and in your task you can add the code analysis tool like check marks, and we do have the sonar cube, and for the JavaScript we do have the JS hint. All those components you can you will be getting the endpoint over here. This endpoint you will be able to configure it as a task, and if you enable this gated check-in, and it will do all this code analysis, and once if it is succeed, then only it will allow the developers code to check in into the VSTS, or else it will break the build and it will send out an email to the developer saying that this code is not you are not maintaining the coding standards or the code quality. Please refix and commit the code once again into the VSTS. So on the successful scenario, we are building the solution, and once this is done, then we are, as I said in the presentation, we need to use the Power DevOps tool installer. This is mandatory to use this, the Power DevOps components. Once this is done, then based on the build number, I'm setting the version to the source instance. Then once this is done, we are using the MS-CRM pack solution. For the pack solution, I'm just giving this folder as an input. Okay, if you give this folder as an input, and what all the components are under this folder, with this folder, it will automatically pack this component will pack this as a CRM solution. This is nothing but in the solution packager we are having a pack command, right? This is similar to that, but here over here we have added the val is added here as a task. So this task will automatically take care. And here we do have the mapping file, this mapping.xml for the custom assemblies. So we need to provide the mapping file. So based on that, it will pick the DLLs and it will pack the solution. Once it is packed, then we are pushing this solution files into an artifacts repository. So once the build definition gets succeeded, the release definition will trigger automatically. This is the release definition which I have configured. Before getting into that, so once the release definition gets succeeded, we can set the approvers, the pre-deployment approvers. Over here you can add the n number of approvers, and even here you can set the timeout. But as of now, for our demo purpose, I have just given my name as an approver. So once the build definition gets succeeded, as soon as the release definition will trigger, once the release definition gets triggered, and whomever the names there in the approvers list, to all those persons, it will send out an automatic email with this template. The deployment to QA is waiting for your approval, and by clicking on this button, so it will take you for the approval page. So in the release definition, what I'm doing is like I'm just installing
Dharani, sorry to interrupt. How many more minutes would you need? Because there are a lot of questions from the community.
Yeah, I will quickly wrap up within 4 to 5 minutes. In the last 5 minutes, I will take up the questions, Kuldeep.
All right, thank you.
Kuldeep, Dharani, Jiva here. Dharani, if you want, you can take 5 or 10 minutes from my session. It's not a big deal because I can wrap it up in 45 minutes.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No
Then I will take it up. Yeah. So here in the release definition, so as I said, this is the mandatory component. We need to add it. Once this is done, then we are adding the import solution component. Then the import solution component, so it will pick the solution from the artifacts repository and it will import it. And here, yeah. So this, as of now, I have hard coded here, but in the variables, you will be able to see the variable groups. And this is directly coming from the Azure Key Vault. And this variables, you will be able to use it here. So if you go here, so we can remove this username and password, and you can just replace it with the variables from here, so that it won't give the visibility to the people in the Azure DevOps, even for the deployment manager also, that won't be visible. So if you come back to the task, and yeah, the import solution. So while importing the solution, we need to provide the connection string over here, and then we need to provide the solution file. And if you are having the workflows or the plugins, then if you give the publish workflows, then it will be activated automatically. If it is unchecked, then all the SDK messages and the workflows will be in the draft state. So we need to make sure that we are checking this option. Then if you give the override unmanaged customization, it's work like the manual process. And once the import solution is done, then we are publishing the customization changes. So this is what we are doing it. So if you come back to the, so we have triggered the export process before some time. Now it has exported the solution. So if I will go to the Visual Studio and I will run this unpack build definition. Down we can see all the unpacked components. See here I have added the demo main.js, so that has came here. And if you go to the solution and if you export this here, you will be able to see the files. So here you can see the components. So these are the new components I have added. It's a developer responsibility to make sure that he should not miss any files while doing the check-in. And these two files we have added. And if you go to the entities, the contact entity, we haven't done any modification, but whereas in the form we have modified this form. So I'm including this form, and I'm including the entity.xml because we have added new fields. So we need to add the entity.xml. And I'm adding the solution.xml. and I'm adding this to web resource. So it's so it's a developer responsibility to add only the related components. For example, in the entity.xml, they need to compare this. While comparing, if any other extra change if they are finding, they need to manually remove the change, and they need to add only their XML node over here. If for example, if they are seeing any approved by manager field, extra field over here, any the extra attribute, then they should not include this. They need to.
Excuse me, please, please mute yourself, everybody. Dharani, so we have decided I'm going to mute all. You can unmute yourself to continue. Sorry about this.
Sure.
Dharni, please unmute yourself. We cannot hear you.
Yeah, it's already. It's unmute, Ruki.
Yeah, continue, Dharni. We can hear you now.
So I'm adding only the necessary components. And also, if you in the solution.xml, we need to make sure that we are adding only our root components, because if you go here, we will be able to see the solution changes file, and here we'll be able to see our root component. We need to add only our root component. For example, the other developers, they might work on the additional JavaScripts, and their JavaScripts also will list here. But we need to make sure that we are removing their files and we are adding only our files. It's completely the developer's responsibility, and it's only the manual process involved in this deployment. So I'm just added all the components, and I'm just giving the check-in. As soon as the check-in is done, my build definition will trigger automatically. So we can see here. So it has been queued. Yeah. So it will go through the line by line, each step by step. So first, initially, it is checking out all the files from my workspace. So once this is done, then we are building the solution in order to make sure that it's not breaking our deployment process. But for the demo purpose, I haven't added the gated check-in. But if you enable the gated check-in, then it will validate. And if you have any build issues, then it will fail this deployment, and it will send a notification to that particular developer. So now the build is going on. So it will take some time to build it. Yeah, now that is done. So now the next step is the tool installer. This is the mandatory step. So that is done. So once that is done, we are setting the version to
the fixed fee model is what Microsoft is.
Excuse me, can somebody tell who is on unmute?
So yeah, so we are setting the version, and with the XML files, whatever we have checked in the Visual Studio, with that we are packing into a solution. So once this is done, once the build definition gets succeeded, so in the build definition, if you go to artifacts, here we can see the zip file. This is the solution file. So once the build gets succeeded, my release will trigger automatically, and here you can see the message pending approval on the QA stage and approval pending on you. And for our demo purpose, I just made my name as approver. So I'm just giving my comments and I'm approving this. Once this is done, my release definition, it will trigger automatically. It will pick the file from the artifacts folder in the VSTS build definition, and this will start. So now it is downloading the artifacts. So over here you can see it, the build automation -drop. So this is the drop folder which we have published in the build definition. From there it will pick it up, and it is downloading the secrets from the Azure Key Vaults. Because I have kept all the credentials from the Azure Key Vaults in order to establish a connection to CRM. So it's downloading the secrets from the Azure Key Vaults. Once this is done, then it will import the solution into the SIT environment, and finally it will publish the changes in the SIT environment. Yeah, so now the import started. So here you can see the build versions. So I'm setting the solution version based on the build numbers. So for the build number, if you go to the build automation, so in the options, you can give the build number format. So this is the format which I have given. So based on that, here you will be able to see the format. So the import will take some 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, so let this complete. So before this, I will quickly see. Once again, I will stop presenting my
Dharani,
second screen. Yeah.
Are you done? There are a lot of questions from the community. Your session was pretty interesting, seems though. And you're ready to take up the questions?
Yeah, sure. Last, I will just go through the summary of this, myths and
Okay.
summary, and I will take up the questions.
Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough.
yeah, once you are able to see my screen, let me know. I have reshared it again. So here are the top 10 common myths we are having it actually. So everyone, we are aware of CI/CD, but we are not doing it for the CRM projects. As of we are feeling like it's not required for the CRM projects, and we are feeling like it is not adding any value to the project. So that's the reason we are not we are not using the CI/CD, and we are manually exporting the solution and importing the solution into the respective instances. And also we are having the myth like it will works only for the large enterprise teams. It's not like that. Even if you have the small developer team of 2 members, then if you are developing this process, we can easily overcome lots of errors, and the process is much defined here. So seamlessly the deployment will reach the customers with the good quality of the code. And also the people will feel like the CRM does not work with CI/CD, but this is the typical example how the CI/CD works with the CRM. And even we do feel like the implementation costs are high, but over here nothing, no much cost is involved. It's just quickly we are playing around with the plugins and with the little amount of PowerShell scripts. So even the cost is also the involved here is very less, and the time consuming is also very less over here. And let me quickly get into the summary. So here through this session we got the awareness on how we can easily create the DevOps for the Dynamics 365 CE, and much easier than the manual the import. But the manual the process over here is the developer's responsibility. It's a pain process, I understand, but in order to for maintaining the good quality, we need to go through some pain. So even that pain is also bearable thing. So we need to just bear with that process. And it does not take so much time, and the manual interpretation only, apart from that the complete manual interpretation we are completely avoiding, and there is a reduction in the risk, and it increases the efficiency, quality, and the consistency, and it reduces the time to go markets. And yeah, the developers will be initially it will be a pain. Once the developer get used to it, and it will be very the developers will happily accept this, and even the customers also will accept this. So questions. So before that, so I will quickly show you the solution import which has been done there. So now the import solution is done. So now if I go to the destination instance, see the earlier the version name is 1.0.0.1. Now if I refresh this, here you can see the version with the latest build version. So you'll be able to see it with the latest build version. And if I open this solution, So all the new components, whichever we have added there, it will come here. Yes. So yeah, questions please.
So Dharani, the first question is from Karan, which
Yeah.
says, which build tools extension is recommended for D365 deployments in Azure DevOps?
So for our process, we are using the Valhamis tool, but and we have came up with the two process actually. One is like the Valhamis one, and the other one is like using our own PowerShell script. If you are going with the Valhamis one, it's the time consuming. It's not a time consuming. Easily, it's like a plug and play. You will be able to use it, and he has built tools in a good way actually. So it's not having any issues. Easily, we'll be able to use it. But if you are
Is it sup-
thinking about the security perspective, then it's recommended to go with your own PowerShell scripts.
Okay. Is it supported by Microsoft, or is it just supported by community?
It's supported by Microsoft also. Yes.
Fair
Okay.
enough. The next question is from Tanay. Is gated check in an automated step?
Yep. Yeah, gated check-in is an automated step. We can enable the gated check-in in the VSTS build definition. There we have a provision to enable that. But for our demo purpose, I haven't enabled it. If we enable that, and we need to add our step for doing the code analysis. And if the step is added, and if we have added all the necessary tasks for the check mark, SonarQube, and the JSON, then it will automatically do the code analysis, and it will make sure that it will maintain the coding standards. It's an automated step. Yes.
Thank you. The next one is from Yusuf. Will each environment have a branch?
Each environment have a branch in the sense, you mean the Visual Studio branching strategy?
Are you there on the call? You can unmute and clarify your question.
Yes,
not,
Dharni. If we have multiple environments, dev, UAT, and pre-production, so
Yeah.
Is it necessary that we have different branches for each environment?
No, we don't need different branches. See, initially the code will pick the code from the master branch and will move it to SIT. Okay. Once the code is moved there, then we won't come back to the code to take the solution, because from the SIT perspective, all the user stories will be validated, and the user story will the SIT will have the proper solution, right? From there, we export the unmanaged solution using the build definition, and we will import it into the UAT environment. So we no need to maintain the different branching strategies, branching based on the environments. That is not required.
So one branch can cater to all the environments you're saying, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And can you just put some more light on on-prem version of Azure DevOps? And will it be required to be exposed to internet for using VSTS, or for using pipelines, cloud services in secure government environment?
Yeah, on-premise, I haven't tried it. I have worked only with the online environments, but now I'm parallelly working some POC on the on-premise environment. So I'll be able to assist you on that post my work. So yeah, personally, you can reach out to me. So I will assist you on that, Yusuf.
Thank you very much, Dharni.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Next is from Sanjay. He says, gate process. How are you ensuring the code is breaking functionality? Any test/QA steps to ensure that the quality is maintained?
See, on this the build definition, we'll be able to add our unit testing framework. So what are the unit tests? There are lots of unit testing framework available. In the last presentation, I have explained about the TDD. Even that TDD files also will be able to ensure in our VSTS build definition. And based on that, the unit testing framework results will be able to success or fail the build. If it is failing any of the unit test case, then we will be able to fail that particular build, and we can send out a notifications to the developers. So that provision also we do have over here.
Fair enough. The next is from Sajan. He's asking, can we make use of Microsoft Developer Toolkit? What is recommended approach for managing source code, and create your own structure or use Developer Toolkit?
For this also, I have used the developer toolkit only, but I haven't mentioned in the slide. But even I have used the developer toolkit. Yeah. So using the developer toolkit, yeah, that is the best way to use it for the solution structure creation. Yes.
Fair enough. The next is from Rahul Nehete. If test automation is not implemented in the CI/CD pipeline, is it still considered continuous integration?
It is not considered as a continuous integration, but we need to configure our own unit testing framework. But I have my own unit testing framework, but if I show that also, it will be too long. So that's the reason I didn't mention about the unit testing framework over here. But we need to consider the testing framework also over there. So we do have a component called the Visual Studio Test. So that will run and it will give you the code coverage, all those things.
Okay. The next is from Sumit Bharti. The question is, does this build tool works with Jenkins pipeline or the Azure server, Azure DevOps server? I am assuming it will need Visual Studio installed as it is a VS extension.
Jenkins, I have this Dynamics 365 build tool. If you want to use the Dynamics 365 build tools, which has been developed by Valhamis, then we need to go with Azure DevOps. If you are planning to go with the Jenkins, then you can achieve it through your own PowerShell script. What all the components, what all the task it is doing, right? We'll be able to write our own PowerShell script using the Microsoft.xrm.data.powershells. That is the module which it is available in the PowerShell. Using that, you will be able to write your own PowerShell script, and that PowerShell script you will be able to consume it in the other systems like Jenkins, etc.
Fair enough. Next is from Shailesh. He's asking Power Automate and Power Apps Canvas app can be deployed and also tracked changes with this tool?
Yeah, we can do it, but we need to update with the latest DLLs. For example, if you are adding your Microsoft flows inside your solution, so you need to make sure that you are using the solution packager, the latest solution. Recently, I have encountered this problem. So we have added the Microsoft flows inside our solution, and we have achieved it. We have ran our build pipeline. It got failed. The reason behind that is like the solution packager.exe and all the necessary DLLs we are using, right? It should be updated with the latest ones. If you are having the latest ones, then it can even the Power Automate will be able to move it through this pipeline.
Fair enough. Thank you. Next is from Siva, and he is asking, how do we create project structure? Do we use any tool to create the same architecture?
We don't have any tool. Yeah, I'm just using the Microsoft Developer Toolkit and I'm creating the project structure.
Okay. Deepesh, I will avoid your question for a moment now. Nikhil, how is licensing defined for Azure DevOps? If I have an Azure subscription, then will this come for free? Do you have single slide which explains its licensing?
No, I don't have the slide for the Azure DevOps subscription part. But yeah, I will share the post this meetup while the Jiva session. I will post the licensing URL in the chat window, so you can refer that to the Azure DevOps licensing part.
Yeah, that helps, Dharani. One more last question is from Mohan. Power Apps, model-driven apps can be enabled using code check in, but how to enable code check-in and build trigger for Canvas-based app?
That even I'm also not sure. I haven't tried it, but I need to check into it, Kuldeep.
Fair enough.
I will check. Yeah, Mohan, you can reach out to me. I will check and I will get back to you on that part.
Fair enough. Now Deepesh's question should be handled. I think we have 3 more minutes. How this can be used with Power App?
I'm sorry. I'm jumping the line. I have a question for Dharani before you go ahead with Deepesh's question. What should be the best way to authenticate in DevOps, using the separate deployment accounts and assigning them a separate D365 license, or going ahead with the application user kind of thing?
You can create an application user. You can create a service account, the non-interactive service account, and you can assign the system admin role to it. And by that, it won't consume your license also. And with that, you will be able to establish a connection to CRM. You can hold
it works with Wilhelmsy tools?
Yeah, it works with Valhamis tools. Yes.
Okay. I may need your help in the connection string. Maybe I will, ping you later.
Sure. You can reach
Thank
out
you,
to
sir.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Fair
a lot.
enough. Just one question from Philip is how do you manage the diff from solution.xml? Do you export the managed solution and from which environment?
No, we are not exporting the managed solution. We are exporting the unmanaged solution using the PowerShell script, and that will flow into your Visual Studio. From there, we are modifying it, and we are committing the change that it will back and it will move it to SIT as an unmanaged. Okay. For UAT and production, we are maintaining the managed solution, and those managed solution we are directly using our build definition. We are exporting the managed solution from the SIT environment. Again, we are not coming back to the Visual Studio code. We are directly picking the managed solution from the SIT environment.
Fair enough. Thank you. Now, the last question is from Vikar, and then we'll wrap up. If the build deployed on production fails, is there a provision to revoke it?
Yeah, you will be able to revoke. See, if the build fails, the changes won't move into the production. Okay. The changes, only the last changes will be there in the production. It won't get deployed into it will be completely rolled back. If the build fails, it will be completely rolled back. So only the last changes will move to the production environment.
Fair enough. Dharani, that ends your session. I think we will need your email ID to be pasted in the chat box. People will then be able to communicate with you over email and then get connected. And with that, we end Dharani's session. Thank you, Dharani. It was a fabulous session.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for attending.
That's great.
Here I have posted all my contact details, and here is my blog URL. I have posted all the Dynamics related, the DevOps related stuffs in my blog. And here is my Twitter handle and email, and I have pasted my the LinkedIn QR code. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a wonderful session. Yeah, thanks.